For some reason, I knew you were going to start with me. So my name is Tad, which is short for Tadiwanashe. In terms of my origin, I'm Zimbabwean and British and Maltese. So I'm a bit of a mix of everything, which I think gives me a good insight on the topic of exclusion and social issues, since I've had to experience integration in a host of different communities and at different points in my life. And with regards to what I do for work, currently I'm working for CCIF, which is the NGO hosting this right now. And my work is as a project manager.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. So we can go on with Juliet.
So hi everyone, so I'm Juliet. I'm from Belgium. And so I studied multilingual communication, and I'm here in Malta for 3 months. I will do an internship with CCIF, so also the organization hosting this discussion.
Thank you so much. And Boyanka, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am Boyanka, and shortly Bona, from Bulgaria. I am president of Association of European Projects in Bulgaria, and I have two moment 3 projects with CIF Malta, and I will be very glad the next project follow together. Thank you.
And Svetenka, I hope I pronounced correctly.
The one with the most difficult name. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Tsvetanka, or the shorter version that people from Malta know it, which is Teta. I'm actually an assistant professor to the Goce Delchev University in North Macedonia, and I have been working in higher education for the past 6 years.
Thank you so much. And lastly, Aura.
Hello, everybody. I am Aura from Romania. I am a primary school teacher and also a youth worker in Imago Mundi Association. And I think this is my first project with CCIF. Wait, no, sorry, this is not the project where I'm in. It's another project we are in partners, isn't it, Alec? Yeah, but I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So we can start our dialogue. And our first question is that, what is social inclusion, Tad?
With regards to what social inclusion is, from my understanding, social inclusion is the involvement and the integration of people from all groups of society to make them included within the community. So when social inclusion is being practiced and when good social inclusion is in use, there will be very few excluded individuals and groups within a community. That's what social inclusion means to me.
Thank you so much. Now I have an open question. It means you can all can answer if you want. The question is that, what does social inclusion involve?
What does social inclusion involve?
Yes.
Well, I think it involves social interaction, whether that be online or in person. And I think it involves cooperation as well, because without cooperation, there's no inclusion.
Yes, and I think that social inclusion is multidimensional. So it also it encompasses social, but also political, cultural, and economic dimensions. We have to look at all of these dimensions in order to understand it properly.
Mm-hmm. And Svetenka?
Yes, I would also like to actually confirm with what Juliet said, that perhaps social inclusion is multidimensional. It affects many aspects, starting from political to economical to social aspects. And if I would have to define what social inclusion involves, for me, definitely it will be like the process of improving the terms of participation of one individual in society, maybe especially to people who are more disadvantaged, mainly through, let's say, enhancing opportunities, to giving them access to research, and basically enabling them to raise their voice and to gain respect and rights, and in this case.
Thank you for your answers. And my next question is coming for Boyanka. The question is that minorities often face discrimination and exclusion, and they struggle for their human rights, even when they are citizens in that country. How are minorities socially included in your countries?
For Bulgaria, social inclusion is analysis of minorities by 4 sectors: housing conditions, employment, education, and health care. Bulgaria is 8 years national strategy for integration, minority and another people, disability and ethnic groups. Is specific from Bulgaria, this 4 sectors.
Okay, thanks so much. And my next question is coming for Aura. In terms of social inclusion, who is being left behind in your country?
Romania also has a big issue with the social inclusion because social inclusion is very linked to the poverty, and Romania is kind of poor country. More than half of the population lives in the rural zone. So that means that a lot of families have very short incomes, and this goes to poverty, to lack of conditions to live, bad housing, and problems in health, and so on. So the rural population, it would be the first segment of population affected by this social exclusion, not inclusion. Also, the power parts of urban areas, and the Roma ethnic also, they are mostly left behind, but I don't know, here it's a big discussion, because there are programs especially made for the Roma people to integrate them, even classes in high school, classes especially for them, or classes in universities especially for Roma people, but they not always understand how to benefit from this. In Romania, the migration is not so powerful in this moment. We don't have so much migrants or immigrants coming. Mostly of the Romanian people are going to another countries, Spain, Italy, and so on. So the migration here, it's not such an issue of exclusions, social exclusion.
I have a question for you,
yes,
Aura, actually.
Please.
So would you say that the inclusion of Roma people or gypsies has improved in comparison to the past?
Yes.
Or would you You would
Yes,
say?
definitely. When I was a high school student, for example, I clearly remember that we had this class, especially for them. Now I am a primary school teacher, and in my classroom, more than half of my students are Roma people, Roma kids. They are treated equally with the others. They can access the same things as the others. But I think here it's mostly a problem of education, because they have to be made to understand what they can benefit of.
Mm.
They have these opportunities and they can take them.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. And next question is another open question. It means your role can answer that one. What are the dimensions of social inclusion?
What are the dimensions?
I think I mentioned them already. I don't know.
Yes, maybe you can highlight again, Juliet, if you want.
Yes, well, I think it's social, political, cultural, and economical, but I'm not sure. Yes, it's not only because we tend, when we think about social inclusion, we tend to think only about the social aspect, but it's much more than only that. So I don't know if someone wants to add something.
Yeah, I would also go as to say a dimension of social inclusion is cultural in a sense, because a perfect example is America. America is a melting pot of cultures and people, and they have Africans there and South Americans there and Native Americans who have been there for generations, not people who came now. And now different aspects of those cultures are now intertwined with the culture of America itself. Do you know what I mean? So I think that then becomes another level. I'm not saying that America's perfect in terms of inclusion either. But what I'm saying is, like, I think it's another level of inclusion when then even culturally some things about a place change because of the people that are there. You know what I mean? But that's also a complex topic to discuss in itself, because you know there's also the sense of wanting to have an original culture and different things. So it's a difficult topic, especially speaking about the dimensions of social inclusion. But I think something to definitely consider is the cultural and the social aspects of it, and how well do people mix. If you go out, how well do you see people mixing together? I was in one country in Europe last month or a month before, and it was like there was Turkish people, and I wasn't seeing any Turkish people with the locals, and the locals were sitting alone, and the black people were sitting alone, and it's like everybody was on their own. So with regards to inclusion, I was saying to myself, what's happening here? You know what I mean? So for me, I would say a measure is social and cultural. Those are two measures for me.
Yes, and I wanted to say, because I liked your example, Ted, of America, the United States, and I wanted to give more or less the same for Brussels, which is the capital of Europe, because we tend to say that it's like a multicultural city because it's the capital, etc. But it's true that I don't know if I could say that everyone is going with everyone, because it's more like you have a Brazilian neighborhood and then a Congolese neighborhood. So yes, it is multicultural in a sense that you can find like many nationalities and not only European, but it's true that you will more go to like a Portuguese neighborhood and then a French one. So I don't know if we can talk about social inclusion, but it's true that Brussels is an example when we think about multiculturalism, but not in the same way as it is in the United States, because as you mentioned, well, the different cultures like come from like a long time ago, and I think in Brussels it's more like it's recent. So yes.
Thank you so much, guys. And would you like to add something else, Aura, Boyanka, or Svetanka, to that question?
I think I agree with that. And culture and media, maybe mix culture and media and social media, and rule of law and no discrimination. Maybe so important rule of law, and inscribing employment and equal participant the labor market is very for Bulgaria is very important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. And my next question is coming for Juliet. And this is, what do you think about the disparities prevailing between native and immigrant populations in the labor market today?
Oof, there's many things to say. I think that we just have to look at the International Labour Organization reports to become aware of this huge disparity between migrant workers and national workers. Because if we look at the income or the wages, well, in Europe, I think that on average, in high income countries, migrant workers earn around, on average, around 13% less than national workers. But in some countries, like in Italy, migrant workers earn 30% less than national workers, and in countries like Cyprus, 42% less. So that, I think that these numbers talk for themselves. And well, I think that since the COVID-19 pandemic, also the problems of discrimination that the migrants used to face were made even worse, because, well, many of them had to go back to their home country, and also because compared to nationals, many of them had jobs that weren't compatible with the teleworking. So, and also many of them were in the front line, so they were more exposed to the virus. So I think that the discriminations were even more visible since are even more visible since the pandemic. And yes, what else can I say? Also, I don't know in your country, but in Belgium now there's this phenomenon of discrimination in hiring that we talk about a lot, particularly so discrimination in hiring based on the ethnic origin or the religion. And it's true that in my country, in Belgium, we tried, in order to reduce this discrimination while hiring, companies or recruiting agencies are asked to anonymize the application. So, for example, by removing all the personal information that doesn't have a direct link with the skills that are required for a job. And so that includes removing the first and the last name, not putting a picture, not mentioning the address, the age, and the marital status also. So I think that's a good thing to reduce this discrimination in the labor markets. But still, I think that there's no law yet for that. So we are going there, like more and more companies are using this in order to receive the applications. But still, I think that maybe a law should be needed. But yeah, so what I talked about are some example of the discrimination, or what we could do, an example that we could use maybe to reduce to our little level the discrimination in the labor markets with migrants, for instance.
Naz, you're muted.
Okay, thank you so much, Juliet. And Tat, you can go on.
So I want to just add some personal experience into what Juliet has shared. And I've worked in various jobs. I've worked in places where they were fair with the wages, and I worked in quite a few places where they weren't fair with the wages. And I've worked in a corporate environment where 4 people are in a department, and this person that happened to isn't me, by the way. The starting salary for that job is 23,000, for example. And then they hire an African person doing the same exact job as the others and pay them 11,000 a year. And that even happened to me as well. So I think it really is important to have some laws in place with regards to that. And I feel like that's an important point you just touched. Because if you have people who by contract have the same job responsibilities and they're doing the same job, then how can somebody be getting paid 11,000 euros less than the other one? Or 15,000 euros less than the other one? Doesn't make sense. If there's such a gap between them, give them different titles. But how can they have the same responsibilities, the same contract, and the same title, and then one is making half as much as the other one? And the only difference is this guy is from this country and this guy is from this country or continent. That's wrong. But like you said, there are no laws in place. So I think when we discuss social advocacy and social advocacy on social inclusion and related topics, I think an important thing is advocating for laws and rules to be made so that this can be in place. And if anybody would like to add, I can see Tsetsa's hand is up. You can continue from where I'm leaving off.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I agree with you. We have to have those laws in place, but it's not just to have them on paper. We have to enforce them as well. I mean, we have multiple countries that we have those laws, but yet again, nobody is enforcing them. At the end, they're just a piece of paper and that is it. I just wanted to add this, that it is important for that policy to be enforced as well.
Thank you so much, guys. And this is our last question, and it is coming for Svetanka. The question is that COVID-19 pandemic brought with it many social issues. How were migrants affected by the pandemic?
Oh, well, answering this question, we all know that the world is facing basically a global crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and perhaps the migrants were found to be one of the most vulnerable group that got affected. I believe first and foremost, they faced, let me correct myself, they are still facing the risk of contagion. I know that several countries did separate statistics on showing the differential exposure to the virus by the migrant population. And for example, to see the statistics shown by the ministries of health from Saudi Arabia and Singapore, believe me, they are more than scary. Their official statistics on the migration status on the individual who tested positive say that sorry. I believe I got muted by the host.
Well, I think we all did.
Okay. Okay, just to continue, so the statistics back in 2020 say that almost 75% of the all new confirmed cases back then were cases that were positive migrants. That is in Saudi Arabia. In Singapore, the statistics is even worse. It said that over 95% of the new confirmed cases back in June 2020 were migrants. besides all of this, I believe there is also the possibility, which is loss of employment, wages, as well as health insurance coverage. They are still, besides this, facing the risk of not affording food as well as money for rent. When it comes to the many social issues that they are now facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic, migrants, according to me, are in the most vulnerable position, especially on the labor market, due to generally their less stable employment condition, as well as the lower seniority on the jobs that perhaps they might have. Also, many studies now show that discrimination is very present, especially in the slack labor market that we are now on. So in the field where a network of contacts is needed to get a job, I know that in some cases migrants have fewer. So in this case, contacts are more relevant to finding a job. Also, I believe not to be forgotten, here are the poor living conditions of the migrant, as well as the shortage of the basic necessities that they have, which in this case, I believe they can cause severe mental stress to many of them, and for it to be manifested in their lives in many forms, starting from the relationship problem, to alcoholism, to domestic violence, as well as to psychiatric illness or some other problems in this case.
I just wanted to add something because you talked again about the labor market. Something very important also that I forgot to mention is the fact that unfortunately many diplomas or former experience or former professional experience abroad are not recognized in all the countries, and that's a big issue. And there's also sometimes the level of the language skills that will prevent the migrant workers to find a proper job. So all these factors are also have to be taken into account.
Thank you so much, guys. And Alec just asked a question. Is it for Svetanka or like for all people, maybe, Alec?
All people, yeah.
Okay. The question is that Alec wonders, how inclusive are the younger generation? Yeah, Aura?
I would speak for the volunteers, the youngsters I knew through Imago Mundi Association, and I see this younger generation very inclusive, very willing to know new cultures, new people, to know their history and their habitudes and their way of life and so on. This is hope, I think. Is a lot of hope. I'm looking at them and I see them very European, to say. Yeah, very, very inclusive.
I like the fact that you answered Aura, because I was actually interested for maybe yours and Tsetsa's answers on this, because you both work in education, and I think when it comes to opinions on young people, I think you two are probably the most.
Yeah, and I think it's our part as teachers, and I think Svetanka will agree with me. It's our part to make them understand how important it is to be inclusive with all the people, no matter what, their background and so on. Everybody is the same. We are all brothers. I'm sorry to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, perhaps maybe it's our job, our message to transfer to them, like to be more inclusive. As for my experience working with younger people, yes, I have to agree as well with Aura. I believe that this younger generation is more inclusive, let's say, from the previous one, maybe from the generation that I was. And I'm very glad for it. I mean, they have more broader knowledge. Basically, there is no space for discrimination, and everybody is accepted. There is mutual respect for culture, which is very satisfying for me to see that actually.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think also one thing, maybe you guys will agree with this, the teachers. One thing that affects social inclusion with the younger generations and inclusion in general is I think globalism has a big effect on that. So the fact that they watch American shows and English shows and other shows and shows from Asia, and it broadens people's minds, because then if you see an Asian person, you're not going to be like, whoa, this is my first time seeing an Asian guy. You know, my dad went to places where he went and people never saw a black person in their life, like old people, 80-year-olds, and they're seeing a black man for the first time and they're looking at my dad like he's an alien. And my dad's thinking, why is this person looking at me? And for them, they said, whoa, there's black people, I never knew. So I think globalism and just like the technology itself, I think also it's aiding in that, which is a good thing, which I feel like is a benefit of technology nowadays.
Well, yeah, if we have to like name the first reason of them being inclusive, for sure, yeah, it's globalism, it's internet. Yeah, I definitely agree on this. But again, working with the younger students and the possibility, I have to mention the possibility for the Erasmus Plus project, because I'm seeing the students that are actively participating in this project, as well as the other projects that we have in our country that are the IPA funds. I mean, every time that are attending a youth exchange or a training course with multiple nationalities, I see them like basically becoming even more inclusive in this case.
I would say also that programs anti-bullying, they are now in the schools, also have a good influence on this social inclusion.
And the program trainer of trainers, the same, maybe, you know, against hate, against bullying and violence program, trainers of trainers.
Thank you so much. So if you remember, at the beginning of this dialogue, we watched a video, but there is a problem. I guess Oleg wants to replay it, if it is okay for you. Yeah. so Alec wants to wants us to watch it once more again, one more and one more. Okay, so Alec will give us a little conclusion now, and then we will finish the dialogue. Thanks for all of your contributions.
You're muted, boss. You're muted.
I'm good now, yeah? All right, thank you guys for joining the discussion. It's been quite intriguing. And I think you have picked a few issues that we would want to take up further later, and possibly build up more discussions on it. And also to just note that we have had the panel was made of people that cut across different age groups, and to have diverse views that sort of share the same points, and yet also pointing out that there is hope within the younger generation in terms of issues relating to social inclusion. I hope that it doesn't put a shadow of despair on the older people like me and the other mature people that are in the panel, that we close ourselves to embrace social inclusion and leave it to the young people possibly to drive it. I think it cuts across all generations. The older we are, possibly the more less inclusive we are, but the challenge is it is in this discussion is to make sure that all generations talk about these issues and sharpen each other, and also make a difference in the areas that we feel we are not as inclusive as we should be. But thank you for your time. I'm sure we'll come knocking again, asking for your participation in other topics, issues like gender equality and stuff like that. And I hope Naz next time we'll have a good balance of males and females, so that we can have more, views across the different gender lines, and see whether men I think Tad is shown that he embraces social inclusion, but it would be good to hear from the older guys to see whether they are impressive as well. But thank you so much. Thank you for your participation. We'll definitely be talking to you after the discussion. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Yes, all right.